What's up YouTube, Kristo here, and I've got another review for you, another fragrance from my 12 picks for fall 2015. This time I'm looking at Bond number 9's Andy Warhol Silver Factory. Now this is obviously from the Andy Warhol mini-series that Bond did. Since the release of this, the contract with the Andy Warhol Foundation has expired and was not renewed. So Bond have repackaged this fragrance simply as silver. And it actually has like a really nice, sleek silver packaging. I have not tried it, so I cannot say if it is exactly the same. But from what I hear, it is very similar, if not identical. This fragrance itself comes from 2007 and is basically meant to replicate the smell of Andy Warhol's, basically his atelier, his warehouse, his kind of flop spot in New York City, the factory. And in the factory, the theme was silver metallic. So it's obviously a very obvious name, Silver Factory. And to me, I think it is a really good representation of both, Andy Warhol and silverness, which I'll address a little bit later. In terms of notes for this, it's funny because the first time I smelled this, I swore up and down that it was just straight, pure incense. And a lot of people will continually mention this as being, one of the best incenses, a pure incense fragrance. But after I got my bottle in the mail, I still love it. And my opinion has changed quite a lot. To me, this is definitely much more about resins. It's basically got very amberous, very balmy resins with kind of a musty, not musky, musty, kind of stale church incense on top of it, with just a little tiny bit of iris, very metallic, very cold, chilling iris. And those are basically the dominant notes I get. Definitely, without a doubt, I get resins first, amber, then I get incense, and then I get a little tiny bit of iris in it. Now, what does this make me think of? Again, this takes me back to church fragrances, church incenses. So if you can imagine an old, like 150-year-old church that had, mass every weekend or whenever they do mass. They had it, every week regularly for 100 years. Then all of a sudden it was boarded up and abandoned. Now imagine opening that church for the first time in 50 years. You're going to get very stale, dark, resinous smoke coming out of it, and that's kind of the feel I get from this. There's just this really undeniable, stale, musty kind of note or accord that I get out of this, and I'm quite sure it's the incense or the amber or both working together. But it's just so there, it just reminds me so much of just a room filled with smoke that hasn't been opened for decades, and I find it really, really intriguing. Now, in terms of performance for this, I find it to be quite good. This is an EDP fragrance, and you would kind of expect it, to perform that well. And I think it does as well. Like I said, I do find the resins to be the bigger player in this. So I think the kind of resins support the incense, which I've had quite a lot of problems with really nice incense fragrances that the incense, as great as it smells, just kind of falls flat after a little while. And I think because, in my opinion, the resins, the amber in this is as at the forefront, it kind of helps the incense stand up. So I get quite good longevity out of this. I get like 8 hours quite effortlessly. Projection is decent. The first couple hours I think are quite good, and after that it is definitely present, but it's not overwhelming. Of course, totally a fall fragrance, and I think this is totally unisex. If you're into balmy resins, if you're into incense, I think this will definitely interest you. Now, price point on this one, this is kind of what opens up this big, huge debate on Bond number 9. Bond number 9 is one of the most mainstream, most accessible niche fragrances probably in the world. The thing is, buying them retail from a department store or directly from Bond number 9, you're looking at about $300 for a 100 ml bottle like this, or about $200 for a 50 ml bottle. And that's pretty much standard. There are some that go up into a higher echelon, but those are their standard prices. Now the thing is, Bond are very, very readily available on the gray market, meaning that it isn't retail, but it's definitely not fake. So you can get 100 ml bottles like this, like I did, for about $150 or perhaps less. But the thing is, because this was a limited edition that is no longer in production, you might have a hard time finding it. I bought my bottle of this about a year ago for that sole purpose, because I really like this fragrance and I love the Andy Warhol packaging. So I bought it right when it was kind of announced that they would no longer be making this and it would be changing over to silver. So I got my 100 ml bottle. Today, literally today, early November 2015, you can get 50 ml bottles of this directly from Bond's website for $150 or $160, which is actually quite good. I wasn't really able to find anything else international for that same price, so it's actually pretty decent, because like I mentioned, their 50 ml standards are $200, including silver. Silver is already at that price range, but it is only available in the 100 ml, and this is only available in the 50 ml, so it's a bit of a, headstorm. I'll use in polite words. But yeah, so if you want to find this, it's probably out there somewhere on the gray market. Don't spend $300 for 100 ml. It's absolutely absurd. Which kind of is a good segue into Bond number 9. Bond number 9 is, like I mentioned, one of the biggest, most recognizable, true niche brands in the world. There's a lot of people out there who really, really detest Bond number 9. They think they're terrible, they're cheap, they're low quality, they're simple, they're basic, they're linear, etc., etc., etc. They can't stand them. Then there's other people who really like them. They think they have a great, extensive catalog. They do something kind of for everyone. They're easy to like. They smell good, and you can find them anywhere if you're in North America, Western Europe. I'm kind of in the middle. I think there are some really fantastic Bonds, this one included. But on the other hand, I think for the most part, 75% or more of the Bond catalog is just complete garbage. They're really cheap smelling, they're quickly composed, they spend no time actually putting any thought or creativity or imagination into the notes, into the transitions, into the different layers, the different levels. I think there are definitely some Bond fragrances that are totally worth checking out, especially if you can get them at the gray market price. I would never recommend any Bond at $300 for 100 mil. There are absolutely, without a doubt, fragrances I would spend $300 on 100 mil for, but just nothing from Bond, honestly. So I'm kind of in the middle. I would say, in my top three Bond number nines. There's a few other that I really like. I Live New York for him. I Live New York for all. I really like Coney Island. Cooper Square, I'm a big fan of. There's maybe four or five others, but other than that, it's just kind of, fodder. It's just nothing. That's my personal opinion, though. So for me, positives for this, I think it is an absolute high quality incense, resin, amber fragrance. I think it smells great. I think it's unique. I think it does actually stand out in that overcrowded market. It's fairly easy to find. Bond are fairly easy to find, whether you want to pay retail or whether you want to get it off the gray market. Great projection for a heavy incense, resinous fragrance. I think it's got great performance. Could be a little bit better. Always want a little bit better, especially for, $150 up to $300 price range, but I think it's got pretty good performance. It's definitely one of the lesser talked about Bonds. There's definitely a cult following for this. But it's definitely none of, your New Harlems and your bleaker streets, which seem to get most of the attention. This is, quite off the radar even for Bond. Negative sides, yeah, of course, it's limited edition, it's Bond, it's expensive, you're going to pay a premium, even if you get it at a gray market site, gray market seller, it's still going to have, a bit of a premium attached to it. If you're not quite into incense, you're not quite into resins, then yeah, maybe it could be a bit, full on, a bit strange with the kind of musty staleness to it. But overall, in my opinion, I think this is a really stand-up fragrance, and I am so happy. I'm ecstatic to actually have the Bond version, the Warhol version of this. My box is in storage in Indonesia. I wish I had it here because I think it looks just as great as the bottle. I'm really happy to have this. I think it is a fantastic fall fragrance. I'm definitely going to be wearing this a lot. It is definitely starting to get cooler and colder and darker and grayer. It was actually quite warm and nice up until about last week, and it's definitely, I think, turning for pure fall weather right now. We're getting down into like single digits regularly, so I think this is going to be an absolute fantastic fragrance for that time. So, turn it over to you. What do you think of Silver Factory? Or can you compare Silver Factory to Silver? What do you think of Bond number 9? What's your favorite incense, resinous, amberous fragrances? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon.